Chapter 5. Shadows of Doubt. Frank Castle slumped over the rusted metal table in his Knickerbocker Village safe house, the flickering bulb overhead casting shadows that danced like specters across the peeling walls. The mission gnawed at him, a relentless beast tearing at his resolve. He craved the truth about Sammy Smith, a truth untainted by Valentina's slick, calculated briefs, those glossy lies that painted the preacher as a monster. The $2.5 million dangling in front of him was a fat, juicy lure, but Frank wasn't some hired gun. He was a judge, jury, and executioner rolled into one battered shell of a man. Only the guilty got the bullet, and Sammy's guilt was a question mark hanging heavy in the stale air. His calloused fingers traced the edge of his Beretta, the cold steel a lifeline to a world he understood. Paranoia was an old friend, but it had new teeth now. The Fist of Elohim, those crimson-clad zealots with their garnet necklaces, had shadowed him before, their presence a silent threat stitched into Brooklyn's grimy tapestry. Frank took the long way home, weaving through Bushwick's alleys, past graffiti-smeared walls and junkies twitching under sodium lights. His eyes darted to every corner, every hunched figure searching for tales. The psychic shield Emma Frost had forged around his mind was supposed to be ironclad, but the fear of intrusion, of those church freaks peeling back his skull, itched like a fresh scar. He'd faced bullets, blades, and bombs, but this was different. This was violation, and it made his trigger finger twitch. Why Sammy? The question burned, a slow fuse in Frank's gut. If Sammy was the mutant messiah Valentina claimed, offing him could fracture their movement, spill blood in the streets, or spark a revolution. But alive, he might be a linchpin, a voice that could steer mutants away from chaos. Frank's mind churned, torn between the Punisher's black and white justice and a creeping grayness Sammy stirred in him. If Samuel Smith was trafficking kids, he'd pull the trigger without blinking. But if this was just Valentina's play to snuff out a rival power, Frank would sooner burn her cash than play her pawn. Sleep was a distant hope as he trudged into the safe house, the weight of doubt heavier than his gear. The safe house was a hollowed-out shell mirroring Frank's own desolation, tucked in Knickerbocker Village's underbelly. Its walls were bare save for a tactical map pinned with red threads and a faded photo of Maria, Lisa, and Frank Jr., a shrine to what he'd lost. The air reeked of gun oil and burnt coffee, the floor scuffed with boot marks from restless pacing. No couch, no comforts, just a cot, a table, and a sink stained with rust and regret. It was Frank in concrete form, stripped to essentials, fortified against the world, a void where life once breathed. He stared at the photo, Maria's eyes accusing him from the past, and felt the emptiness yawn wider. That night, the desert claimed him. Frank stood alone, sand stretching endless under a sky ablaze with a merciless sun. His fatigues clung to him, soaked with sweat, the M16 in his hands a familiar burden. Yards away, Maria shimmered in her yellow sundress, her laughter a faint echo swallowed by the wind. He called her name, voice cracking, but the dunes devoured it. A dust storm roared up, a towering beast of sand and fury, its howl drowning his shouts. Maria turned, her face serene, then vanished as the storm swallowed her whole. Frank lunged, boots sinking, screaming her name until his throat bled. A gunshot split the silence, sharp, final, and the desert fell still empty. He jolted awake in the safe house, sweat-soaked, chest heaving, the echo of that shot a knife twisting in his soul. Horror clung to him, thick and suffocating, Maria's absence a fresh wound. Morning broke gray and heavy. Frank brewed coffee in a dented pot, the bitter steam curling up like ghosts. An Irish Oats protein shake sat untouched beside it, fuel he forced down, though his stomach churned from the dream's residue. Maria's scream lingered, a phantom in his ears, her loss a weight that never eased. He slumped at the table, laptop humming, and skimmed his emails with bloodshot eyes, each word a dull thud against his skull. Valentina's message sliced through the haze, a trafficking drop near Newark's Penn Station, 2 p.m. Sammy would be there, meeting the kids at the church's Harlem HQ later. The intel was too clean, too pointed, like a script handed to a hitman. Frank's lip curled. Valentina wanted Sammy as the big bad wolf, but where was the proof? No photos, no witnesses, just her word. If this was a setup to axe a mutant leader, Frank wasn't biting. But if Sammy was dirty, this could be the nail in his coffin. Observe, don't engage, she'd typed, her tone clipped. The Fist of Elohim would outgun him 10-1, those roided-up fanatics in their matching gear. She had a mole inside, she said, and Emma could juice up his psychic shield for this run. Don't screw this up, Castle. They'll see you if you move. Frank snorted. He'd see them first. He boarded the subway in Brooklyn, the car rattling like a tin can through the tunnels. Faces around him were muted, worn-out workers, hollow-eyed kids, all staring into nothing. Frank caught his reflection in the grimy window, blank, hard, a mask carved by tragedy and time. The path-train to Jersey groaned under his boots, each jolt a reminder of the miles between him and the man he'd been. Newark loomed ahead, and with it, the truth he needed to claw out of the shadows. Penn Station hit him like a punch. Crowds surging, the air thick with diesel fumes, burnt pretzels and sweat. Voices overlapped in a dull roar, heels clicking on tiled floors streaked with filth. Frank blended in, hoodie up, eyes scanning from beneath the brim. The Fist of Elohim stood out even in their toned-down gear, black jogging suits, crisp Air Force 1 second, garnet tennis necklaces glinting like fresh blood. Built like linebackers, young and cocky, they could have passed for a Brazilian soccer squad if not for the menace in their stance. They flanked an Asian woman in a sharp suit, her face all business, surrounded by 18 kids, 4 to 16, a mix of races, some with scarves or hats hiding odd features. Mutants, Frank pegged them, his gut tightening. He snapped photos from a distance, lens catching the kids' faces. A boy, maybe 6, clutched a ratty bear, his eyes darting like a trapped animal's. A teen girl with silver-flecked skin pulled her hood low, shoulders hunched. None bore bruises, but distress etched their features, tight mouths, wary glances. Looks could lie, Frank knew. His instincts screamed to storm in, guns blazing, to rip these kids from whatever hell they were bound for. Lisa and Frank Jr. flashed in his mind, their graves a silent accusation. Guilt gnawed at him, raw and relentless. The kids were herded into 4 black Sprinter vans, doors slamming with a finality that echoed in Frank's chest. He couldn't tail them, not without a fight he'd lose. They were headed for the HQ, or that damn temple in Harlem, he figured, the church's twin hubs of power. The woman barked orders in clipped tones, the fists snapping to attention like trained dogs. Frank's hand hovered near his concealed Glock, but Valentina's voice rang in his head, observe. He turned back to the path, the ride to Harlem a slow burn of frustration and memory. Night draped Harlem in a shroud as Frank slipped into the shadows near the Church of the Saved's HQ, a hulking brownstone on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Bare trees lined the street, their skeletal branches clutching the last amber and gold leaves like dying embers against the sodium glow. The air bit with autumn's edge, sharp with the scent of damp asphalt and distant smoke. Frank scaled a neighboring roof, boots silent on the tar, and crouched low, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The alley below was a hidden vein, shielded from the block's bustle. Sprinters rolled in, tires crunching gravel, and Sammy emerged, carmine blazer blazing like a devil's cape, black shirt and pants stark beneath it. He moved with a preacher's grace, henchmen at his heels, Keena, all muscle and menace, his shaved head gleaming. Sadie, Sammy's sister, her braids tight, eyes cold as steel. The Fist loomed behind, their necklaces winking in the dim light. Frank eased his sniper rifle into position, scope trained on Sammy's chest. One shot could end it, clean, quick, before the kids got close. But then the scene shifted. Civilians edged into the alley. No church robes, no garnet bling, just worn coats and desperate faces. Too many bodies. Frank cursed silently, finger off the trigger. The van doors swung open, and kids spilled out, running, not fleeing but rushing to these people. A girl with bright eyes threw herself into a woman's arms, sobbing. A scaly boy gripped a man's hand, trembling. Frank's breath hitched. These weren't captives, they were family. Sammy wasn't trafficking mutants, he was smuggling them. Trafficking meant profit, chains, broken lives. Smuggling was risk, a lifeline for the hunted. The Church of the Saved, with its stained glass facade and whispered hymns, was a front, a sanctuary cloaked in sin. Frank's scope dipped, the rifle suddenly heavy. If Sammy was breaking laws to save these kids, to shield them from a world that caged them, Frank couldn't pull the trigger. Not tonight. He watched Sammy kneel, a fatherly hand on a child's shoulder, his voice low and soothing. "You're safe now," he murmured, the words carrying a weight Frank felt in his bones. Respect, resentment, a flicker of something softer. Valentina's intel was a house of cards, and it was collapsing. Frank packed up, sliding into the night, his mission unraveling with every step. The safe house loomed ahead, a tomb waiting to swallow him. He'd come for answers, and now he had them. Truths that demanded a reckoning. Sammy wasn't the devil in the carmine coat.